You are so disrespectful.
He is going to fall off a cliff.
Shut the hell up.
That's not even close to my best.
They're wrong. And I don't give a damn that they agree with me or not.
It's that time of the show. This is where Stephen A. gives us his final words and the final take of the week. Stephen A., the floor is yours.
Thank you, Molly. You know, when we learned yesterday that Craig Sager was gone from us all, obviously our hearts ached for his family, his friends, his loved ones. And we thought about the NBA community because obviously as a sideline reporter for TNT, he did such a phenomenal job dating back to as early as 1981. We think about that and we thought about the NBA community, but what I think that on a day like today, we also need to think about is the sports world overall and how much he's impacted us all, but not just him. When I thought about Craig Sager passing away, I also thought about my man Stuart Scott, who passed away in January of 2015 at the age of 49. I thought about John Saunders. No, he did not pass away from cancer, but he's gone from us nonetheless at age 61. I'm thinking about guys that were fixtures in the world of sports that had such a profound impact on the lives that they touched because of how enthusiastic they were about doing their job, how enthusiastic they were about living life, and how often they implored so many people that they ran across to do just the same, to never take life for granted, to treat each day with the grace, with the desire, with the gratitude that it deserves, understanding that life isn't promised to any of us, and neither is obviously tomorrow. And when we think about a guy like Craig Sager, he reminded me of Stuart Scott. He reminded me of John Saunders. He reminded me of Jimmy Valvano and all the other iconic figures I believe to be iconic figures in the world of sports who lived a life covering games, but treated life just the same, understanding that as precious as it was, it's also there to be appreciated and enjoyed. And now that we think about Craig Sager's passing, let's remember that more so than anything else. He's special to us all. He meant so much to us all because of how often he reminded us of how precious life is and how it would be a shame for us not to feel about life the same way that he did.
Then with this, we begin with the passing of a staple on the sideline and a man synonymous with the NBA. Craig Sager has died at the age of 65. Known for his colorful and distinctive suits during his more than 40-year career, the legendary sideline reporter has battled leukemia since he was first diagnosed in 2014. Here's Steve Kerr and Charles Barkley last night.
I felt like I lost a brother today, and I feel great sadness for myself, but I feel so much sadness for his wife, Stacy, and the kids, because this battle, man, there's no person that I've ever met in my life who wanted to live more. I mean, that guy battled so hard. 3 bone marrow transplant had never been done before. And I should tell Ernie, when we used to go see Sager, when you leave the room with Sager, you feel like, is there anything wrong with that guy?
As many of you know, today is a very sad day in the NBA. We lost a dear friend and a big part of the league's soul with the passing of Craig Sager. And I know I speak for a lot of people who worked with Craig and who knew him when I say that nobody had more zest for life and passion and joy the way he lived than Craig. He loved his family, loved his friends, he loved Bud Light, he loved golf, he loved atmospheres like tonight where he came and worked an incredible sporting event. He loved the Cubs. He loved people more than anything. Going out with Craig after games with the crew was always fun. Tonight, we offer condolences to his family, to Stacy and his children. We offer condolences to his colleagues at TNT, many of whom are here tonight working the game. And we mourn his loss, but while we considered a moment of silence, we thought it would be more appropriate, given the way Craig lived his life and the joy that he brought to so many people, to have a moment of joy instead. So I'd like all of you to join me in an applause for a great man and a life well lived. Thank you.
A beautiful spirit and a fighting spirit. His light touched so many. Stephen A. and Max, good morning, guys. I want to start with you, Stephen A. here. How will you remember Craig?
I can't really put it much better than Charles Barkley and Steve Kerr put it. Obviously, they worked with Craig Sager for years. They know him better than me, better than a lot of people, but those of us who have covered the NBA for many years, we know how synonymous he is with the NBA in the world of sports, and we know what a wonderful human being he was. He was always very gentle. He was always very kind. Charles Barkley put it best when he talked about how he was full of life, and he's never met anybody that loved life and wanted to live more than Craig Sager. And so you hear about his passing. It was, it's just devastating to all of us who covered the NBA and who have been around him. When ESPN worked the deal out with Turner to allow Craig Sager to cover his first NBA Finals, I remember LeBron James asking, how in God's name, after all of these years, 20 plus years, have you never covered the NBA Finals until now? It just didn't seem right. It just seemed so perfect when he was there for Game 6 for Cleveland and the Golden State, because it clearly was where he belonged. And I watched him work the arena, just walking around, even beforehand, people wanting to take pictures with him, clamoring for him, thanking him for the strength that he instilled in so many people. To see the standing ovation that he received during the game was incredibly touching. And then when Steve Kerr spoke last night, prior to the Knicks game, Warriors game against the Knicks, Steve Kerr, who, he's a very good man, and we all know that about him, he actually put a smile on my face, because by him saying and reminding us all how Craig Sager would have wanted us to conduct ourselves, for it to be a celebration to some degree, it made me smile, because I thought about the last time I had spoken to Craig Sager. Craig Sager walked up to me, and we all know, Max and Molly, that he's very well known for the colorful outfits that he wears. And he walked up to me, and like Kobe Bryant said on Mike and Mike earlier today, everyone always looked forward to whatever outfit we were going to see Craig Sager in, because clearly he owned it. He could pull it off. Most of us couldn't. Most of us wouldn't even think about trying. But when it came to him, he would pull it off every time, and he didn't care. This is what he loved. That's how he loved to look. God bless him. And so he came up to me, and he said to me, "Steven, you look great." And I looked around and was like, what's wrong with my outfit? Why is he saying that? I mean, do I have on something wild or whatever the case may be? And that's what I thought about last night. It just put a smile on my face, because I remember how I was questioning the outfit that I had on, because he was telling me how good my outfit looked when he saw me at Quicken Loans Arena. And so I just think about it from that perspective. I'm sad for his lovely wife, Stacy, his 5 kids, the TNT family. I know all of those folks, and he was a special man, and he meant a great, great deal to the NBA community, and we're all going to miss him. It's a devastating loss for everybody associated with the NBA, with the world of sports, and for folks out there battling cancer. My words to them, including people like my own mom, is just keep the fight up, keep going, keep pushing. Because Craig Sager certainly did that to the best of his ability. And as sad as it is to see him gone, we owe him an incredible debt of gratitude for the life that he lived and what he was willing to put on display and share with us all. We're all better because of it.
Yeah, I think that Craig Sager's life shows that if you treat people with kindness and you have a sense of humor about yourself and use obstacles and hardships in your own life as a source of inspiration to uplift others, you will be loved. And I think what's most telling about the way Craig Sager lived his life, and I did not know him personally, we crossed paths a couple times, but didn't know him personally, had no personal relationship. And as a basketball fan and as a person who lives in this culture, I was very sad, of course, like everyone else, when I'd heard he'd passed, and was upset even when the news first became public that he was struggling with his illness. I think the greatest tribute is the people who knew him best. The closer they were to him, the more upset they were, the more they loved him. That's not the case with everyone. But in this building, I'm in LA now, where I did Sports Nation for 3 years before joining this show, Stephen A. And in this building, everyone was obviously sad and depressed about it. But the people who knew him were weeping. The way Charles Barkley was crying on television. Michelle Beadle and Rachel Nichols were weeping yesterday. And when we discussed how we were going to handle it, because I did Sports Nation for old time's sake while I was here yesterday, I appeared on the show throughout the show, and we had all these things planned, and then the news came out 5 or 10 minutes before we went to air, whatever it was. And the question was, how do we handle something like this? And the decision, at first, maybe we just make the whole thing a tribute to Craig Sager. And the decision ultimately was, what would he do? And how would he want this handled? Probably embarrassed by the attention. But if you look at how he lived his life, he went to work, didn't ask anyone to feel sorry for him, and did his job basically up until the very end without asking for special treatment or anything like that. And so it was decided the best way to honor him and his legacy is to carry on and do the show. So we did a tribute segment off the top, as we are doing here, and discussed it because you can't ignore it, obviously. And then carried on and did the show as he did, as he carried on. I just think, as I said, the greatest tribute to him is you'll notice in the media reaction, people watching at home, the people who knew him best are the ones who will be weeping today.
Well, the thing that resonates with me as well is the great Ernie Johnson, who's a cancer survivor, who would go to see him to fire him up and inspire him. And it turns out that it was the other way around. That's what Craig Sager did for him and so many others. And you think about the battles that people are fighting every single day in an effort to conquer cancer. And you think about the Jimmy V Foundation and what ESPN has been closely associated with and synonymous with for decades. And you think about all of those folks out there in such desperate need, not just of treatment, not just for a cure, but also for inspiration along the journey, along the battles. And then you think about a guy like Craig Sager, who would go to work and work a game at night and then turn around and fly to Houston the next day, the next morning, to receive his chemo, and then depart from there and go right back on the road. And then you sit there and you think about the times that you said to yourself, I'm tired, I'm not feeling well, I can't go, but there's really nothing wrong with you. You knew what was wrong with him, and somehow, some way, he showed up to work every chance he got. And it just serves as the greatest inspiration to all of us about what we can be made of if our heart and our mind is truly committed to something that we love so dearly. And I just think that that's an important message to reap from it all. But again, my heart goes out to his family, his loved ones, the TNT family, thanking Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaq and the crew, especially to Steve Kerr and that tremendous tribute to Greg Popovich, who spoke very sincerely about him. The man was loved in a great way by anybody associated with the NBA community, and the players, I think, are doing an incredible job of expressing their love and affection to him and their gratitude for all that he means and he meant to the game of basketball.
And I also want to add, Stephen A., our heart also goes out to anybody battling cancer. Our prayers are with them, including your mother as well.
Thank you.
Craig Sager, gone way too soon at the age of 65. He will be missed, but not forgotten.
You got it. What do you think?
If you're going to wish big. At the Lexus December to Remember